And I would like to start with a big shout out for the sponsors and the organizers. They put in a lot of effort without which this event would not be possible. So thank you, both sponsors and organizers. So I'm Bhargav Reddy. I'm a technical architect. I primarily have core expertise on SharePoint and Microsoft 365. I'm slowly spreading my wings with Azure as well. I have about 14 years of experience, and I currently work for Taranto Group. And today's topic will be about automating document processing using SharePoint Syntex and Power Platform. I know that Power Platform is something that is quite a lot of the audience here would have been exposed to in terms of what are some of the intricate details on how to go about certain aspects to that. There might be certain things which might look basic, and there could be certain things which might look complex, but I'll pause for questions in the end and we'll take it up. And I would like to start with explaining what SharePoint Syntex is and try to see what best we can learn from this particular session as well. So I'm going to quickly play a video. I hope the audio will be visible for this particular audio. This video is from James Eccles. He's the program manager. It's kind of a small mini keynote. Just for the SharePoint Syntex topic. I did a request and he obliged to do that. So thanks to James for doing this. Are you able to hear, guys?
Oh, yes, yeah, that's good, yeah.
Okay.
No, hold on. The video is visible, but no audio.
Yeah, audio is not there, yeah. I think yours, while sharing, you can check the include computer sound, then it will work.
Yes.
Is it on the device settings?
I think you need to stop sharing, and while again sharing your screen, there will be option to include computer sound.
Thank you. Thank you. Just give me a second.
No issues.
Yeah.
Let's test this again.
Microsoft working on the SharePoint Syntex team. And I'm thrilled to have you here today to learn more about some of the capabilities we have within SharePoint Syntex. When we started to design SharePoint Syntex some years ago, the problems we were looking to solve are probably familiar to most of you. As time goes on, the amount of content we all have to manage in our environments, as well as the complexity of that content, is ever increasing. And having to rely on manual methods to classify and understand content is cumbersome and not as efficient as when we can use technologies such as Syntex to really accelerate turning content into knowledge. Over the last 14 months since releasing Syntex, we've continually added new features to the product set to make our capabilities for classifying, understanding, and tagging content richer, making it easier for customers without expertise in artificial intelligence or machine learning to really take benefit from these technologies. We're really excited about our plans for the coming year. If you think about Syntex today, we're focused on the earlier parts of the content lifecycle. So identifying content, classifying it, extracting metadata, and labeling for compliance purposes. We've recently released features for metadata search, moving us into the discovery phase of the content lifecycle. And early in January, we'll be releasing our content assembly features, allowing you to use the power of Syntex to build content as well as understand new content that's coming into the environment. I look forward to you learning more about SharePoint Syntex, and hopefully we'll get to speak again in the future.
So, like you heard, James, so quite a lot of the context of this particular session will be to deal with content, right? So content is very important and key. I think most of the times, I think 35% of the times organization employees lose time in trying to find content which is more relevant to them, and it's discovery of content. And at the same time, the most important aspect is classifying the content, categorizing it, validating the content as well. So you kind of have to look at this from the perspective of automating certain digital infrastructures as well, especially customers which are which would specifically be on the financial domain, like the banking industries and stuff, which cannot lose even a single document, right? Every document is precious and everything has to be taken care in terms of its confidentiality and security and compliance aspects as well. So we will look into each of what SharePoint Syntex offers in trying to achieve this particular automation. So this is a very big slide, right? So don't get too perplexed by this particular slide, but it's just to give you an outline of what is part of the particular Syntex as a product from Microsoft. So it kind of provides an admin configuration ability where you kind of have the PowerShell support, and you can go ahead and you can create your provision your particular centers, which is basically the content centers. We will have a look about what content centers are. It also has support for the Power Platform, and the content center is basically the one-stop solution kind of site collection, if you'll say, where you can actually develop all your document understanding models. And the form processing models is part of something that you can directly associate through the AI Builder capabilities. We will look into each of these particular documents deeply. And then we also have the concept of prime libraries. So basically, when document libraries are something that we understand as SharePoint engineers, we understand how a document library is structured and stuff. And when does a document library become a prime library? We will look into that. And also it has support for SCORs with the taxonomy kind of additions as well. Quite a lot of complex topics as well that can be achieved, but I would like to tailor it down to a bit of the basic and medium level kind of applications in this particular demo. And if anyone has more complex implementations, they feel free to write to me and we can discuss further. So the typical content is that we will also see in today's demos is basically document classification and extraction of metadata. And the next set is to validate the metadata, right? So most important aspects, the three key aspects is to classify, extract the metadata, and then validate that particular metadata before we actually assign the labels or before we actually process the documents further in the life cycle. So SharePoint Syntex was introduced part of Project Cortex, and the previous topic from my fellow speaker Shruti was more to do with the first part of the slide that you see, which is connecting people to knowledge, where you actually had the ability to create topics and bring your resources closer to your workforce. The second topic is the content processing, which we will be looking today. A large part of the content compliance aspects from an organizational perspective can be applied to the content as well. But we will not deep dive into the security and compliance aspects because that is an altogether its own subject by in itself. So we will limit our session today to content processing, and the content services, Microsoft Knowledge Content Services kind of utilizes Microsoft Graph and Microsoft AI in the background to perform all these particular operations for your understanding. So not everybody is a big fan of slides, right? So we will try to see if we can work out through these particular slides as quickly as possible and then get directly into the demos. I already have given an understanding of Syntex. It is basically to come back to this, and yeah, so this is the slide which is more important, where you will perform your content understanding. So how are you going to do that? So you're going to create no-code AI models, which is to classify and extract the information and automatically apply the data for knowledge discovery and reuse. And you can also apply your Power Platform abilities after you have extracted the metadata. So how was the evolution of content AI happened? So conventionally, you had conventional machine learning, and then you had a black box artificial intelligence set. And then in order to actually develop certain models, you had to have large training sets. So like you had to have quite a lot of documents. Only then the expertise or the results that you would want to see from that particular training sets would be more reliable. But today AI has evolved into a bit more efficient and it's more human centric, and the sample sizes are quite low. So when I say sample sizes are quite low, it is as low as 5 documents of same type that you would like to actually process through the engines, and just 5 documents is enough for you to train your models. And we will look into those particular sample set of documents as well in our demos today. So the intention is to basically bring people plus artificial intelligence together. So there are abilities to manually as well perform your content classifications. You like to do certain object detection, which is to process your photos, scans, business cards and stuff, which is also a capability which is directly available part of form processing. And the next two aspects is the form processing and the document understanding, which we will deep dive into. So first important aspect is to understand the difference between document understanding and form processing. It's quite difficult at this point to understand the intricate differences. We will look at it after the demo in a larger perspective to identify what are the key differences between document understanding and form processing. So for document understanding, it is created in the content center and it has the ability to handle unstructured file formats, and you have trainable classifiers with optional extractors, which is important. And also it can be applied to multiple libraries, right? So this is the most important key aspect. Whereas to form processing, it is only restricted to a single library and it has certain settable classifiers, and it can work very well with the semi-structured file formats. And it is part of the AI builder capabilities. We will discuss a bit on the licensing part in the end, but then if you have any questions straight away, which might be arising in your mind, please have a hold on it. So we will directly start with the demo. So how are you going to enable the SharePoint Syntex? So when you go to the SharePoint Admin Center, the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, under organization settings, SharePoint Syntex is a capability that is available, and you need to enable this capability, usually done by your admin teams. So like we have seen that it is divided as form processing and document understanding, right? And so there are certain limitations on how you can actually apply form processing and document understanding. So let's take a quick look on what are some of the options available. So it says which are the SharePoint libraries where you would like to enable the form processing, right? So in this current context, in my trial subscription, which kind of wired up for this particular session, I have used libraries in all SharePoint sites because I was not sure when and where I want to apply it, right? So that's the reason I've done that. And then the second aspect is to go ahead and enable your document understanding capabilities. The first thumb rule of doing that is to have your own content center. So you can imagine like a content center, like a hub, which is like a centralized location where you can actually create all your AI models, and then you can apply them on multiple libraries across your tenant. So that's the capability. So what I have done here is I've already created a default content center. But if you just come back to this screen as, probably as the first time, you would just see the ability to create a content center and with a set of text boxes, and you provide the information, and the content center gets created in the background. Right. So let's move on to the next aspect. So once the content center is created, which you can see here, so the default content center is the FB content center which I've created. There is no limitation to create a content center. So if you have different classification strategies or content organization strategies, you can develop different. You can actually design that, and you can actually go ahead and create different content center site collections. So here, for a large part of our demos, I have created my own content center apart from the default center, just to ensure that I separate my concerns. So we will come to content center. So basically, you just go, once it is created here, you just click on it, and it automatically takes you to the content center. And the first part of the home screen is an intelligent way that Microsoft already by default represents all your models and how it has been classified based on certain libraries, and it gives you a primary statistics. So most important aspect here is, so consider that you have certain scanning team or scanning teams within your organization, and this is the area where it might be a matter of importance where you enable the SharePoint Syntex licensing for your teams who deal with your documents and your record centers, and then they will be in a position to be able to create the model. So that's the power that Microsoft kind of provides you here. So for the first thing I will go ahead is try to create models. So here, for the purpose of this demo, I've already created two classifiers, that is basically two models in the background. I would like to showcase certain how to classify and categorize your bank reports and in certain optical character recognition documents, which are more like the handwritten documents. This is also the capability that is provided by Syntex, both on the document understanding and as well as the form processing abilities. We will take a look into what are some of the what actually are some of the performance benchmarks as well when it comes to both of this at the end as well. So I am just going to quickly try to create a model for your understanding. So the first thing that you say is you can go ahead and you can provide, or rather I would say that I have some invoice samples. I'm just going to say that I'm going to create an invoices model. And when you go to advanced analytics, this is the important aspect that you need to note. You can create a new content type. When you say create a new content type is created for you in the background by Microsoft automatically, but you can also use an existing content type which you would have created, and you could have probably done that using the content type gallery option within SharePoint Admin Center. So for example, let's say you have content services here. And you have a content type gallery and you would like the extracted data to be associated here. One second, seems to be an error with this particular page, but yeah, let's just imagine that you had the ability to go to the content type gallery. You would be in a position to create a content type, right? So yeah, now the page is enabled, so you can click on that and those content types that you have created from the content type gallery will be available here for you to use, right? So I here would like to create my own content type, and I'll tell you why. Because I would like to create my own content type because at this point of time, I'm not sure what is the data that I will be extracting and what will be the data types. So my intention here is to first extract the data, not worry about the data types. And then once the extraction model or the extraction process is complete, I would like to then go ahead and validate my data and then push the data across into my further processing within the system. So the first aspect of training a model would be to add sample files. It is recommended for a document understanding model to use 5 positive files and 5 negative samples, like 5 positive samples and 5 negative files. So what I'm going to do here is for the invoices, I do not have already have some set of models that I have trained and uploaded for the previous models, but I will consider these files as negative files, and I'm just going to go ahead and add them. So when you do that, you would be able to see all the documents that you have added here as part of the training under this particular list view web part. And then you can go ahead and you can additionally upload your files. So I have some sample set of invoices. Before I upload, I would like to just showcase the sample for you for your understanding. So I have here certain standard Microsoft template which I've created here, which has certain amount details, quantity description, unit price, total, and so we would like to extract this data and kind of process this further. So I'm just going to quickly upload these 5 sample files. So the second aspect is to perform the training. So I would go and click on the train classifier and all your documents will be listed here. And there are 3 aspects that you must remember before you perform the training. That is to first label the document, whether it is the right document that the engine must understand, and then train the model, and then you can also perform a quick test. So what I'm going to do here is I look at this particular model and document, and I know that it is not the document of my choice. It's not an invoice sample. I cannot even see the keyword invoice here. And what you're seeing here is, I wanted to highlight this point is because this particular document that you see here is more Icelandic language, and document understanding and form processing have quite intelligent capability to accept Latin character sets as well. Though I would say that it is still being improvised by Microsoft, but it is almost there. So the first question that it kind of asks part of the labeling is whether is this file an example of an invoices model? I know that it is not, so I'm going to go and label that, and I'm going to make that as a negative sample. So the moment I say no, the model already has a label called negative, and I'm going to do that for the top 5 files which I've uploaded. And then when we reach our invoices part, this is where I know that it is an example of an invoices model. I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to complete the training process. So additionally, you can also train the model by adding certain explanations. Explanations are important for extracting the data from your document, or also making a document more identifiable. So I would just put something like a keyword that I would want to look into this document in order to be able to, sorry, I just chose a template. I'm just going to do a blank template. Of course, there are some pre-built templates which if you can explore, you will be able to see that you would like to extract a currency field, email address, and there are certain already pre-built explanation types that you can use as well. I'm not going to stretch on those details, but I'm just going to create a quick identifier, and I'm going to say a phrase list, and I know that I have the keyword invoice in my sample, and I would like to say that that should be one of the identifier for me. Probably I would say I'll additionally add the keyword shipping as well, just to train the model a bit better. And I'm going to say, where are these phases going to occur? I'm going to say anywhere in the file you find a keyword called invoice or shipping, that's when you actually identify it as an invoice sample. So this is where it kind of becomes more, document understanding becomes more capable in terms of its, how do I put it across? It becomes more capable in terms of handling the unstructured documents. So for example, you could have contracts, you could have trade agreements, you could have a different set of documents which will have structurally they could be different, but then the content within that particular document could be the same. So that's when you kind of choose the document understanding model. So here I'm just going to go ahead and quickly click on save and train. And the evaluation is directly something that you will be able to visibly see within the screen itself. And I'm going to skip the test part because we're anyways going to do that from the document libraries. And the third part is, if you look at it, the classification and training was so successful that the accuracy was about close to 100%. Let's see, go ahead and create 2 or 3 extractors and see how that fares as well. So I know within my invoice sample, I would like to probably just pick up the name and the invoice number. So I'm just going to put 2 invoice number. And for now, I'm just going to keep it a single line of text. And as soon as you're done with that, the extractor is basically to extract and hold that. And when you looked at the slides, you saw something called a settable classifier, right? So this is where it comes into the picture. And I know that since this document that we are seeing on the top here is not an invoice, I'm just going to go ahead and label it as a no label. And for the invoices, I'm just going to say this is the invoice number I would like to pick. So this is done. And the next aspect is to add the explanations for the entity extraction. So it also provides you the ability to add explanation while extracting entities. So I'm just going to go use a template here this time instead of going up for a blank. And I'm going to say I'm going to use a before label, and which says that every time I kind of see the keyword invoice before the number, that's when you kind of, identify that, that is where you are within that particular content frame. This is where your data is to be in order to be picked up. Just quick check and additional details is you would be able to see the original document as well. Like you see, it does not actually support the styling and stuff. It only extracts the content from it. And then the accessibility mode is by default off. So it is something that you can enable here. When you enable that, your users will be in a position to use the keyboard as well to scroll through the content. So I clicked on before label, I've started training the model and the evaluation is kickstarted. Yeah. So that's done. This is how you actually add extractors. I'm just going to quickly add one more extractor, which is to extract the name. I know these are not the documents of my choice. I'm going to make it name no label. I'm going to go straight to the training model. And I'm again going to choose something like an after label this time. And I know amount is going to be the keyword, but that is in place. And I'm going to just save and train the model. So while developing the model, we have a 4-part life cycle, right? So we have completed a 3-part life cycle. We have added the files, trained the classifier, extracted the entities. The last part is to apply the model. So it also provides, you have the PowerShell support as well in the background if you would like to, for the admins to actually go ahead and apply these models and manage the models. You can provide your general users within the organization the ability to access the content center. They will be able to perform all these particular activities without the SharePoint Syntex license, but they will not be able to apply the model. So the last part is to apply the model. I'm just going to go, but I don't have a library, right? So we have not yet seen where is my demo site. I have a demo site, and we haven't yet created a document library for kind of classifying the invoices. So we are going to go ahead and just going to create a invoices. So by default, this is what is the document library that you see. Now let's go ahead and apply this model on our demo site. Invoices document library, and that's when the the invoices library will become a prime library. So if you just refresh, you start seeing this information additionally, which says that form processing and document understanding models on this library will automatically apply content types and extract column fields for new documents in this library. So we have applied the document understanding model as well. Let's go ahead and quickly upload the invoices. I have a set of samples here, and it should start the classification process. We'll come back to this, and let me just start with the actual demo that I wanted to show. We'll take a look because it takes a while for the priority scheduler to kickstart in the background. When I say priority scheduler, it already gives you an indication we are analyzing your file, and we will discover the values and update it. So as part of this demo, I have a bit more like a mock sample of how usually financial documents look like within an organization. And here I have an Icelandic character set as well that I would like to extract. And I would also want to see from this particular document how to extract this table as well, right? So we have a table from the invoices sample as well, but I'm not going to show you how to do that. But here is a table as well that I would like to extract. But If you look at the document understanding model, it does not give me a clear way of extracting the table information, because all the document understanding model does is to extract the content only, but it does not provide you the structure. So how am I going to do that? So that's when your form processing capabilities come into picture, and we will take a quick look into that as well. Yeah, your invoices model is already applied, and you can already see that once you apply a document understanding model, there will be two columns which are key columns, which is the classification date and confidence score. The confidence score is when by default it is, I mean, the internal name is prime confidence score, and for classification date is prime last classified. Let's go ahead and quickly take a look. Yes. So here is our extracted entities, and it has automatically applied the invoices model. So this is how document understanding works. So now let's consider that we just took a look about our banking report samples, right? So I already have a set of samples. I'm going to want to extract some data from that, and I'll just go back to the sample, and I'm going to say I want to extract the following values: this one, this one, this one, and the name and the Kenitella value. So Kenitella is basically kind of like a social security number that organizations could also have a validation check, and this is where the Power Platform comes into the picture, right? So Syntex gives you the ability to first classify your document, but Power Platform gives you the additional capability of validating your document, right? So we will take a quick look on how we can actually take we can do that. So I have wired up a Power Automate in the background, which I've named as Bank Reports Flow Document Understanding. And the best part is you already have an action provided by Microsoft, which is when a file is classified by a content understanding model, because the content understanding model takes quite a lot of time in the background. When I say quite a lot of time, it is it takes anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes, or a maximum of sometimes. We will look into the performance benchmarks as well. It depends on the kind of load that you're putting in, but the moment it gets classified, that's when this Power Automate triggers, and then what I'm doing is I am just building the profile by extracting the information that are required, and I'm checking the following condition, which is basically to check if the record is not modified and the confidence score is greater than 0.9. That's when I would want to validate the social security number. So I've just put a mock validation here, and if the validation is successful, then I would like to update my model with the values. So let's go ahead and quickly upload some document understanding. I already have a library called document understanding, and let's go ahead, and it's quite similar to what we did for the invoices, and I'm going to upload some new documents here. We'll come back to this. We'll take a quick look because it takes some time. So the next aspect is form processing. How are we going to actually perform form processing? So like I mentioned, it is part of AI Builder. You need to have AI Builder credits, part of the Power Apps licensing. And once you enable that, you will be in a position to access the AI Builder from here. So when you click on go to AI Builder, it takes you to a particular screen and nothing gets displayed. So I'm not sure what's happening in the background, but the hack towards this is you need to just go ahead, and if you look at it under my models, though I have some already existing models, it does not show me any models. So how do you actually see your models? You just remove the question mark, template is equal to SharePoint form processing, and then you come to models. You should be in a position to see the models. So I have some pre-built AI model models that have developed. I will go ahead and I'll quickly show you some of the models where we have used the same existing bank report samples. So this is the sample. And how do we actually create this AI model? So you can create a model. So before we create a model, I'm just going to show you what are the default capabilities. So under build, in make.powerapps.com, you should be in a position to see all these particular options. Like we discussed, object detection, you can do entity extraction, and there is form processing. I have used form processing here, and I have created the following model. So my intention is to have the following fields, and at the same time, I did tell you that I also want to extract the table from that particular form. So I've created certain fields, and I've created a collection, and form processing expects 5 minimum samples, but then if you add 20 samples, it will yield better results, like Microsoft advocates here. So I've added the following files. I'm just going to click on next. Yeah, I just missed one part. I just wanted to add an additional document to show you how it trains. Just give me a second. I'm just going to add this. Okay, so it says there was a document already with the following name. Let's hope this is not there. Okay. Or I'm just going to do it from an existing document. So let's say I'm going to remove all the tags for the following document. You can remove a tag as well. For example, say suppose there is a particular, there's a particular field which is not available in the entire collection. You can say it is not available in the entire collection, so that it does not even bother to perform the classification. Or if you say that in the current document it is not available, for your training, you can also do that. For example, there could be a certain loan number in a document, but not all, bank reports might not have a loan number, right? Not all customers will have loans. So that's when you can, while extracting such information, you can actually mark that as not available in the document. So what I'm going to do here is form processing provides you amazing ability to extract. So all you have to do is click and then associate. I'm just going to quickly associate my values here. I'm done. So the next is to extract the table. And I'm going to disable the tagging, and I'm going to manually select my rows. And then in order to draw your columns, you have to hold the control and click. That's it. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say what is the header of the columns, right? So I'm going to say this is the header. And if you look at it, the following table is already previewed, and I'm able to see that. So now this is how you train. And once you finish this, when you click on train, it trains your model in the background, and then you can publish your model and start utilizing this. I'm not going to do the training part here. It's just something that happens in the background, and then you have your model available. Because I already have a Power Automate, I don't want to make changes to my Power Automate. So what I'm going to do here is, so once I have the model here, the next step is to create a solution against it. So in order to be able to use the predict action from AI Builder to extract, to use the extracted values, you can go ahead and you can use the form processing solution. So I have created a custom solution called form processing solution, and I have created a custom my own Power Automate, in which my intention is to get the document that has been processed by form processing, use all the extracted metadata, and similarly how we validated the Kenitella, and update the file properties. And in this particular use case, I'm also updating the table data. So what I have done here is in the demo. For the form processing, I have an lookup column for the table data. So let's just upload some bank reports and see what happens. So basically what should happen is it should process all the documents successfully, extract all the information, update the content type here. And at the same time, it should be able to perform a lookup kind of a relationship between the form processing documents and add the table data, right? So let's go ahead and upload some sample files. So let's come back to the document understanding. So if you look at it, document understanding, we had uploaded some documents and it has successfully extracted all the records. Not only document understanding, not only such documents, such structured and unstructured documents, you can also extract handwritten documents. So I already have some samples. I'm just going to quickly show the sample of what can be done. So consider that you have such certain handwritten documents and you would like to extract this text as well. It can be done successfully. So in order to show you a demo of how to extract information from here, I have a document library in which I have wired both the document understanding as well as the form processing capabilities. So what I have done here is for that particular document library, I've associated both the capabilities of Syntex on a single document library. And within my model, I'm extracting these top 4 metadata, and then all the volunteer information that you see here is being extracted from the form processing. Let's take a quick look of the model.
Bhargav, last 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Sorry. I'm just going to upload some samples so that this process gets triggered in the background. Yeah, and within the OCR solution, I have you can see that I have created a similar Power Automate, which will perform the validation, and under the models, yeah. So under the form processing, these are all the volunteer information, and from the document understanding model, I'm just going to quickly show. We have the optical character recognition model, and in which we are extracting all the 4. So let's quickly check what's happening to the model. It has not kickstarted yet, but before that, let's take a look into whether our form processing is completed successfully. Here it is able to extract all the data. Let's quickly check even the table data, and here we have the table data as well, and group by the document ID, and then you can see that you have the relationship as well maintained. The last is to quickly check the optical character recognition. We'll come back to this. So if you'll see here, the most important aspect we wanted to discuss in the last 5 minutes is the performance benchmarks. So form processing, it's more on the expensive side of the licensing model. You get about 1 million AI Builder credits when you purchase the 300 plus SharePoint Syntex licenses, and that would suffice about 1200 page files is what I know. So the volunteer information was quickly extracted because the form processing is a bit more faster, and the document understanding takes a bit more time. So now if you look at it, both form processing and document understanding models have successfully executed, and you should be able to see the entire data. Now quickly come back to our slides, and I can share these particular differences. It's also from Microsoft documentation, but I quickly like to highlight again that document understanding is something that you can apply to multiple libraries. Form processing is only for a single library. Document understanding, you can kind of train up to 5 to 10 PDF or Office kind of documents. But with form processing, you can also do PDF, JPG, PNG, and also TIFF files. And you can also apply your retention labels and sensitive labels. Like I mentioned, compliance is not something that I'm touching upon, and the kind of language support which is available. And the key important points is Microsoft statistics suggests about 95% of customer data is processed within 500 seconds. So that's what you need to remember when it comes to document understanding. If you're plugging in something like a data validation workflow and all, you should be mindful of the thresholds or the throttling limits of your workflow engine. You need to bear with delays and implement strategies effectively for your organizational needs. And then you should also be in a position to provide manual interjections, right? So when I say manual interjections, you probably might require a form that needs to be developed in the background to be able to handle any documents which have not been classified successfully. Let's imagine that you could have documents with a confidence score lesser than 70 or 60%. So what are you going to do with such documents? You should have a strategy around that. And then caching is also something that has been done, and it can be clearly noticeable with fillable PDFs. A quick look before on the performance benchmarks. I think I've already exceeded the time. Just give me 1 minute and I should be done. The manual interjection can be achieved with the following way, where you can create a Power Apps form and for your manual validation of the metadata, display of the document, and also the document manipulation panes. Anybody needs any inputs on this, you can write an email to me. I'll share the slides, and any questions or anything, you can reach out to me. Quickly, last part is
some questions are there in the chat window. Please cover on that.
I will do that. Just quickly wanted to show on the performance benchmarks. I should be done in a minute, Jenkins. So most of the times you might be working with an organization and they might be requiring certain performance benchmarks, and they would like to see when and how long it is taking to classify. So I have a sample set of documents which I kind of use certain loads like Power Automate or ShareGate to push all the documents into the document libraries and understand how long it is taking. When I was processing some about 35 documents for every 5 minutes within Power Automate, which was picking the documents from a file share and pushing it to the document libraries, the following were the benchmarks. So you would see about 11,626 documents were the total, and out of that only 2 documents failed. And then the average classification interval time was 8.48 minutes, and the validation time from the Power Automate was 1.2. So these are the min and the maximum classification intervals. I will share this particular report as well. Anybody has any questions pertaining to the report as well can reach out to. Yeah. So I think we have an interesting session as well coming up from Kirti to join a deep dive Power Apps portal session as well next. And I'm open for questions.